Hello YouTube and welcome to Groove Builders. I'm your host Disorderly Cone and I'm extremely excited today because we're going to be building our very first 3D metal model of an attraction ride. It's a roller coaster. Let's take a look at the package. Yeah, look at this thing. This is awesome. And the first thing I'm noticing is this isn't Metal Earth. There's actually a lot of companies out there that make metal model puzzles, and unfortunately not all of them are created equal. Some of the metal that comes in these packages can be very frail, which if you're building with them, it causes the pieces to break very easily, or they can get warped and misshaped and the model looks awful at the very end. Now, I have never built one from Genius Technologies before, so this is a bit of a mystery to me. Will this model be a screaming success, or will we get derailed? Groovers, let's get down to the workbench and open it up. Alrighty, Groove Builders, welcome to the workbench. We have our 3D metal model roller coaster here in some pretty awesome Genius Technology packaging. Just to the left here, below the roller coaster, we have a complexity rating of 3 out of 5 stars. I don't typically trust these ratings, but it's something good to know. Below that, we have a QWERTY code that we can scan to get a 360 view of our roller coaster if we need it while we're building. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back. On the back, we have our 3 metal sheets, a quick little look of the roller coaster that we're going to be building, and then below all of that, we have some instructions on how to build our model. Now, these aren't very detailed, but I'm sure there's going to be more inside. With that, Groove Builders, let's go ahead and open up our model. We have our instructions, and we have our metal. And it looks like all the metal is tied together inside this package. Very interesting. Let's get it out. And there we go, our 3 sheets of metal. And look at the detailing. This is going to be a pretty nice sized model, that's for sure. This metal though seems very thin. You know, it feels actually very similar to the Burj Al Arab metal. Groovers, let's get building. The chance to build our very own roller coaster. Even if it's a model, this is awesome. I don't know about you Groove Builders out there, but I have loved roller coasters for about as long as I can remember. Can you remember your first roller coaster? Mine was the Ninja at Six Flags over Georgia, and I think I was about 6 years old. I can remember looking at the track with all of its twists, turns, and that almighty loop. I think every kid looks at the loop of a roller coaster like a monster, terrified of its massive size. My cousin would ask me as I looked at the Ninja if I was brave enough to go. I was so scared I think my legs were shaking, but I couldn't let my only other male cousin know that. So I jumped in line and before I knew it, I was in the train going up the first hill. Click, 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 click. I didn't realize how high it really was. Click, 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 click. I started to feel myself panic. Click, 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 click. This was a really bad idea and I want to get off. Click. Then it happened. Pure panic sets in. I can feel the speed picking up as the rest of the train makes it over the top of the hill. What was sky is now ground, and the sounds of screams and the wind fills my eardrums. Almost in a blink of an eye, I felt it. My first loop, the taste of pure adrenaline, and I was hooked. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to go back to Six Flags over Georgia or the Ninja roller coaster since, but I have made it my mission to go on as many roller coasters as I can. I feel like most people who ride roller coasters know this feeling all too well, but have you ever thought about where these steel monsters come from? To find out where our adrenaline train started, we have to go back to Russia in the 18th century. People were looking for something fun to do one day, so they decided to put water on a hill covered in snow. The result was a giant ice slide. The slide stands 70 to 80 feet tall with a 50-degree drop, with the entire ride being made out of wood. Because of this, they got the name Russian Mountain. Unlike today's parks where everyone could come and enjoy the rides, back then, only the upper class were able to go and enjoy them. Catherine II of Russia even had one of these mountains built in one of her gardens, complete with an area for food and drink after. In multiple languages, the words Russian Mountain is the term used to talk about roller coasters, but roller coasters translated to Russian means American Mountain. Funny, eh? Okay, but how did this idea spread to what it became today? Well, Russian soldiers occupying Paris in 1815 through 1816 after the defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo are believed to have introduced the concept. In 1817, a banker by the name of Nicolas Beaujon opened up his amusement park, Parc Beaujon, And his park had one really big, awesome attraction that stood out amongst all of the others. This ride was called Elialstro. It featured wheeled cars securely locked into the track with guided rails to keep them on course. The 3-wheel carts were towed up to the top of the tower and then released to descend to 2 curving tracks on either side. King Louis XVIII of France came to see the park, but it's not recorded if he actually tried the ride out. Before long though, there were 7 other similar rides all over Paris. But again, these rides were mainly for the upper class. When did it open up for the world? Well, in 1845, a new amusement park would open up in Copenhagen, which was designed for the middle class. These new parks featured roller coasters as permanent attractions, where before they would be taken down after fairs and festivals. The first permanent loop track was most likely built in Paris from an English design in 1846. The ride had a single-person wheeled sled running through a 4-meter vertical loop. Most of the early single-loop designs were called centrifugal railways. In 1887, a French entrepreneur, Joseph Ali, the owner of the Moulin Rouge Music Hall, built the Russian mountains of Belleville, a permanent roller coaster with a length of 200 meters in a figure-8 shaped loop design. Now, the starts of the roller coasters as we know them today was in 1884, when LaMarcus Thompson used a concept from a minecart track. He would build the Switchback Railway and open it on Coney Island in 1884. Riders climbed to the top of the platform and rode a bench-like car down a 180-meter track to the top of another tower where the vehicle was switched to a return track. The passengers then made the return trip. This track design was soon replaced with an oval complete circuit. In 1885, Philip Pickle introduced the first complete circuit coaster with a lift hill. It was called Gravity Pleasure Road. It became the most popular attraction at Coney Island. Not to be outdone, in 1886, LaMarcus Thompson patented his design for a roller coaster that included dark tunnels with painted scenery. The term scenic railways was coined, and soon the scenic railways could be found in amusement parks all across the country. As they grew in popularity, experimentation in roller coaster designs took off. By 1919, the first under-friction roller coaster had been developed by John Miller. Perhaps best known for the historical roller coaster, the Cyclone, was opened at Coney Island in 1927. Like the Cyclone, all earlier roller coasters were made of wood. Many old wooden roller coasters are still operational today and can be found at parks such as Kennywood near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Pleasure Beach in Blackpool, England. The oldest wooden roller coaster in the United Kingdom is the Scenic Railway at Dreamland Amusement Park in Margaret, Kent. It was built in 1912 and is the oldest continually operating roller coaster. It still features a system where the brakeman rides the car with wheels. One of only 13 remaining examples of John Miller's work worldwide is the wooden roller coaster at Lagoon, Utah. The roller coaster opened up in 1921 and is the 6th oldest roller coaster in the world. In 1959, the Disneyland theme park introduced a brand new breakthrough in roller coasters with the Matterhorn bobsleds. This was the first roller coaster to use tubular steel tracks. Unlike conventional wooden rails, which were generally formed using steel strips mounted to laminated wood, tubular steel can be bent in any direction, which allows for designers to incorporate loops, corkscrews, and many other maneuvers into their designs. Most modern roller coasters are made from steel, although wooden roller coasters are still being built along with hybrids of both steel, wood, and VR.
Alright Groove Builders, we did it! We built our very first roller coaster, and this looks awesome! But it was no easy feat. Let's talk about why in construction. The first thing I want to talk about right away is the clarity of the directions. Mine looked like they'd been photocopied about 1,000 times, which made it almost impossible to figure out what orientation the pieces need to go in and where the tabs need to go in specific areas. This caused me to have a few problems with the track. So in order to avoid that for you guys, I definitely recommend going online and getting the online instructions. These ones are very clear and you can zoom in on certain parts if you need to check anything. Always make sure to have those instructions nearby, Groove Builders. You don't want to do what I did and have to redo some of these tracks. It's a lot of twisting, and this metal may not be the best for it. Speaking of which, my second point is about the metal itself. This metal is a lot softer than the metal earth metal. I like to refer to it as 3-bend metal because if you bend it more than 3 times, it will break. It doesn't necessarily mean that these models are bad, it just means that you need to take extra care when putting these together. Groove Builders, try to look ahead when you're building this particular model because you don't want to break any of the individual posts. Like I said earlier, make sure all the tracks are lined up. Take your time, double check the directions, and you should be fine. My third point is about these posts. These posts were extremely difficult to build, and that's because I couldn't find anything small enough to be able to wrap the posts around. I ended up making a teardrop shape with the entire post pole and then using tweezers to kind of round that out. That is definitely a technique, and if you don't do it right, you do run the risk of warping your post. Groove Builders, take your time with this spot, and if you can find something out there that's skinny enough, please make sure you put it down in the comments. I would love to be able to have something like that in my toolkit. And with that, Groove Builders, let's move on to build time. According to all of my video, this model took me 2 hours and 50 minutes to build. However, it felt way longer, especially with all of the posts here. That's where the majority of my time was spent. Groove Builders, it's important to take your time with these builds because you really do want to enjoy them, but also you want to make sure you're not redoing any of the pieces. And like I said with these posts, if you take a little bit more time, you shouldn't have to redo any of them. And lastly, Groove Builders, let's move on to my thoughts. It should be no surprise by now that I love roller coasters, but I didn't necessarily love this build. This roller coaster build is easily one of the more difficult builds I have on my channel, and one of the main reasons why I don't like those rating systems they have on some of the metal model casings. There's just so many variables that go into building metal models, including the builder's actual experience, but also things out of the builder's actual control, like metal quality and instruction quality. The overall design of the roller coaster is really nice, except for the trains, and if it had stronger metal and readable instructions, I think it would have agreed with their 3-star rating. A quick little nitpick. What's up with the train cars? I mean, these are sled cars on a looping steel roller coaster. It's kind of silly when you think about it, and I kind of wish they would have put maybe some different cars in its place. I mean, it is a Russian mountain after all, but only in certain languages, right? Getting back to the metal, I really enjoyed having the different part numbers right next to the pieces. It made it very easy to find all the different things I needed when I needed them. Metal Earth, why haven't you guys done this yet? I mean, seriously guys, high five on that. Overall, I would say this is a very interesting little model to say the least. If you like a lot of twisting, have some experience building some other metal models, and want a little bit of a bigger one, I would say go for it. But if you're new to metal model building, I would say you might want to wait a little bit on this one, Groovers. And with that, Groove Builders, we're at the end of our show. I had a really good time building a roller coaster with you, and if you guys had a good time, don't forget to press that like button. For more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we got all kinds of really cool content coming out in the future. Until next time, Groove Builders, keep building.